Welcome to the Artistic Finance Podcast, where we break down the wall between art and money. If you're here looking for how to be an artist and financially sustain a career, you're in the right place. Keep listening and join us as we learn about artists and how they make money work for them. Hello everyone, this is your host Ethan Steimel here for episode 13. Thank you for listening, and a special thank you to anyone listening from Brazil. This episode is the first in our Connecting Cultures series. These are episodes where we interview someone from a different culture and in their own language. This episode is in English. The second episode is in Portuguese. I've enlisted Ronny Dutra to guest host both interviews. Ronny is a Brazilian director and dancer living in New York City. We worked together on Out of Water, a Brazilian pocket musical, at the Tada Youth Theater in 2019. When live theater returns, we plan to work on more productions together. Before I hand it over to Ronny, I have a favor to ask. Please find Artistic Finance on YouTube and subscribe to our channel. It doesn't seem like much, but it helps us find new listeners. Today's guest is Claudio Botelho, a Brazilian producer, actor, singer, and translator. He is called Brazil's musical theater wizard, and alongside his artistic partner Charles Miller, he has produced numerous big musicals in Brazil for more than 20 years. He has directed more than 40 shows, including Company, Spring Awakening, and Pippin. He has designed scenery and costumes for more than 30 shows and has won many awards, including a Lifetime Achievement Award as a composer. This interview focuses less on personal finance and more on the mental and spiritual outlook of a producer as an artist. Claudio lives fully in the flow of creativity and passion, while accepting financial risk and the challenge of raising money. One last note, we recorded this on May 18th, 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic lockdown and before the Black Lives Matter protests had expanded worldwide. Without further ado, let's get to our interview.
Vamos falar pouquinho em inglês, então I think it's worth for us to share a little bit of who Claudio Botelho is as an artist, as an entertainer. How did you come to be one of the greatest producers in Brazil, musical theater and just art in general? If you can give us a little 2 minutes elevator pitch of who are you?
Well, first of all, I appreciate that you're very generous and kind about using these words to talk about me. Basically, I'm a guy from Minas Gerais, who is a very, very country state in Brazil. I lived in a very small city until my 13 years old. So I came to Rio with my family, and of course I went to school. And at some point in school, I had to have an option for an extra class, which was not in the curriculum, regular. I don't know how to say that in English anyway, but they had something there which was called theater. I had never heard about that thing in my life. So I went to do this thing that they called theater. So I was there. So I was very, very touched by that thing that I never knew what it was. So I started seeing theater and watching plays in Rio, which was absolutely new for me because in Minas, in my country state, we didn't have that. So I had the lucky to see professional theater. It was, as a matter of fact, it was a moment where the military government was getting over. So the first play I really saw was a very strong play by a very guy who was pursued by the military government, Oduvaldo Viana Filho. So I had the luck to see that play on Arena Theater, so at the second row. So I remember seeing those actors, very, very strong actors. First name was Sergio Brito, who's a very, very important actor. So I was there, and I stayed about 3 days without sleeping because that was so strong. It had nothing to do with musical theater, but that was theater. So that was very strong. So after that, I stayed doing theater, and I wanted to do something about that. And one day, some guy, a professor, he gave me a long play of something called Oliver, and he said, "This is a musical." it was the original soundtrack from the movie, and I never knew what was a musical. I really didn't never knew that. So I had it on my long play player, pickup player, whatever then they call that in English. So immediately it got me. So I remember that I never gave him back that long play. It was my only one. So I listened to that musical for about 100 times, 200 times, 200 times until it was torn. So I got inoculated. I think that is a kind of, that's what I say somehow. It's a kind of virus. So I was really, I got that fever and it never went away. So it became part of my life. So, and I'm lucky though today I live from that. So I made a life and a career and things like that. But it started as a love, as a possession.
That's so great. I think as artists, we all can say that we feel infected by it one moment or another, or maybe our entire life. We just live completely infected nonstop, and it is a great story. It is a great story. I love that Oliver was your big first. Yeah, I love that. I love that you had. Did you have like one of those big vinyl discs?
That's the one I'm talking about. It's the movie which got. I never knew that it was a stage show. It was an English show. So I only understood. I had that one with Ron Moody and Mark Lester. It's a fantastic movie. But I didn't even have seen the movie. So I only listened to the songs. But it was so strong that when I saw the movie, I couldn't get out of myself. I couldn't get inside myself. I mean, it was so strong. Oh my God, these songs belong to that thing, that story, and this is what is going on. So it was so new. So, but it means what I think is you can be. You can have the disease when you got the virus, or you can never have. And I know a lot of people that really don't like that. People that don't get touched by musicals at all. So they can see it now and then, but some of them hate it. But when you got touched by it, it's like football, or it's like something that you can't go away from. So.
And that's okay. I mean, it's diversity makes us who we are. And if everyone likes the exact same thing, that would be boring as shit. Oops, I don't know if I can say shit live, but here we are. You told me that one of your very first experiences with theater was watching this live play on the second row. So as an audience member, what would you say you prefer, you like the most when it comes to live art, live events?
Oh my God, that's a great question, because that's the most beautiful thing that I have, that to be an audience and to choose a show to see. And to me, especially when I go to see musicals, and which means when I travel, I love the revivals because I am very much an old soul. I love the. If you're talking about musicals, I like to see great actors and great songs. That's something that touches me, and I can see. When I see, I'm going to give an example. For example, I went to see Bette Midler doing Hello Dolly recently. So that thing made me go back 3 times and pay like about $1,000 for each time I went, because that kind of thing turns my life. It gets me out of myself. So that's the kind of show I like. Someone who can be God. That's a God for me. That's God. Bette Midler, Jerry Herman, he's a god too. So that situation makes me, that's what I want in theater.
So I think we can both agree that live theater, especially musical with quality actors and actresses and material, that's really what moves you, right? Like you just told about Bette Midler and Hello Dolly, you went 3 times. I had the opportunity to watch it live myself, so I completely understand what you're saying. It was an out-of-body experience for me. So I can say I've been bitten by the bug many times, and that was one of them for sure.
And I say that especially as a audience member. That's something that I used to get excited. Recently, like about 2 years ago or 3 years ago, Charles Aznavour used to come to Rio de Janeiro, for example, and to play. Even the last time, he was very, very much old, and to see him a live experience that turned me on. So that's the kind of experience that I like to see. Greats, like gods on stage. That makes me very, very human. I love to see the gods.
I love your use of the expression "turn on." It really turns you on. It's funny. I feel I can relate, and I know a lot of friends who are in this that also relate with that. It's a turn on. It turns a fire inside of us. It's wonderful. Where do you draw inspiration from? You just shared this amazing story about Bette Midler and Hello Dolly with you that you went 3 times and how much it turned you on. Where would you draw your inspiration from?
At this point of life, it gets harder to be inspired by something because you don't search for it. It suddenly appears. It suddenly happens. It can happen when you, for example, when you get touched by a Stephen Sondheim song. When first time I heard a Stephen Sondheim music was somebody gave me the long play of Company. So that thing was so inspirational. I got so touched by that. It was many years after the Oliver thing that I told you. I was not a child anymore. I was already someone doing theater, musical theater. I already had Gershwin in my blood. I already had Cole Porter. I already had songs and things. I was trying to start a career, and I was doing things. But when I heard Company for the first time, I said, I didn't say anything. That was so. I can't say. I had to do it. Don't ask me why. And it's an absurd to be Brazilian on 1999 and to have done 2 very regular small scale shows and to go back to my partner. I mean to the guy that I work with Charles is. Charles Miller, and say, well, we have to do Company. So, and we did it. And so that became out after that long play. It's just because I had it, and I heard it, and it became like it's like faith, you know? It's like a religion. I don't know, I hope I'm not being unrespectful about religions, but it's a kind of my religion because that touches me so much that I want to take that word. I want that somebody else can be touched like I am. So it happens. So I think it's inspirational.
I love that. I love how you cross the idea of doing art as a spiritual realization for you. I love I know you for a couple of years now, and every time we had the opportunity to work together, there's always this very bright will for you to share all that, and I love how you're crisscrossing that with the spiritual experience of the thing, because it is very internal, it is very personal, and everyone will deal with that differently, and the idea of spreading the word, spreading the love, right? Sharing the gift, like a friend of mine would say.
Oh, I thank you. So in this case, for talking, and we know each other for some time, but this is the first time that I think about that, and of course I've been talking to people about these kind of things, like starting or whatever. But this is the first time that I understand and I feel like that. And it's something new for me. And I'm very sure it is. It comes it's like a religion. It's like passing the word. So it's like, let me go back to our friend in common, who is so much turns everybody on, which is Stephen Schwartz, another Stephen. So it's another faith person. So it's like gospel, It's like to have to follow a gospel. So I believe in that. So I want people to believe so. That's inspirational.
I love that you mentioned company, though. It was 1999, and you had only done like 2 smaller productions. And we know where you came from because you introduced yourself coming from Minas Gerais at a very early age, and you had the opportunity to do something called theater in Rio. And then a couple of years later, you found yourself with this urge of putting up this entire production of a crazy show that took place in New York. And how was that experience for you as far as becoming the professional that you are now? How big of a part did that play into making you a successful businessman in the industry? Because at the end of the day, we all have to be good businessmen to be able to manage our own victories and losses, right? So you had a great partner, you still have a great partner, Charles Miller, and he was there with you from the beginning. How did you guys manage that first production?
Sometime by the birthday of the 90th birthday of Stephen Sondheim, I was trying to do some kind of collection of things that we did by him here, and we are the only people that made Sondheim shows in Brazil, as far as I know. So we did Company, we did Side by Side by Sondheim, we did Gypsy, and we are now working on West Side Story. And so I got in touch with the material that I didn't know that exists, which is a tape from the original Company, our production. And I was Bobby on that production. So I didn't know that thing existed. So the producer sent me, because I was just collecting things to put something together. And when I saw it, I said to myself, oh my God, this is life, because we could have chosen something else, or we could have been, made another path of our life. We could have turned a different corner, but we turned that corner. So this completely changed our life. We started with something that is so unlikely to start. But why did we start with Company? Because we were so in love with that thing. It turned us, as producers and directors, it turned us so much on. So we were not clever enough to know that we couldn't. So that's why we did. Because we couldn't do Company in 2000 in Brazil. Because we didn't know how to put the microphones. It took 3 weeks to make the sound of the show. Because no one knew how to do sound in Brazil. You know what? We had a pit in the Teatro Villa Lobos in Rio, which had a pit for orchestra. Pit had never been used. No musician had ever been there when we did Company. So we went there with Company. So why didn't we choose something different? Why weren't we doing, let's say, The Music Man, for example, which would be already something astonishing. But we did that, and suddenly it worked. And a lot of people that was in that cast with me were starting, and now they are stars here. And they are the main people in the musical theater in Brazil, like Totia Meirelles, like Daniel Boaventura, like Cláudia Neto, like Sabrina Koguti. That was their first show. So at some point I say, why did Charles and I choose that? That's life. Because if we had done a very tiny different choice, we wouldn't be who we are. Not in terms of we are not great, or I'm not saying that, but we are who we are because we had that. We had that germ. We had to do that, and it worked. And out of the blue, one month later after the opening, it happened that it worked well, and the book author, which is what's his name? It's the book writer of Company.
George Firth?
George Firth, yeah. He came for the opening. After the opening, he was to check for them, it was awkward. For MTI and for them, we had George, and we had my dear friend who is not with us anymore, he became my dear friend. It was Richard Salfas from MTI, and they were there at the opening. And after the show, I remember that George who immediately became great friends after that. He got the phone and he called Stephen Sondheim. And he said, you have to get in a plane and come here. So when I heard that, when I heard him saying that, I said, oh my God, this is not happening. That man was so generous. I mean, he could have had a different eye on that. But I knew we had a good production, okay? So I knew that, but that was being generous from him, because he was seeing that we are a people that we're doing something very much different, and we did it with so much heart. And he was with us, and he said to Sondheim he had to come because he knew it is Sondheim. Right? The soul of all of these things. And what happened? 1 month later, I was here during Friday during the afternoon, and so my phone rings, and this is Salfas. Oh, how are things? Yeah, I'm going to tell you that Stephen is in town, and he's going to see the show tonight. I said, what? Yes, he's in town, and he didn't want you to know. But I'm telling you that you have to leave 2 seats, because he's with Cameron McIntosh, and he's going to see the show. My life is so funny. I already knew Cameron because I was translating at that point Les Miserables, but it was so many things at the same time. But you know that Stephen Sondheim was here in Copacabana Palace, and he would see the show at the night, and he didn't want it to be known by the press. That was the only thing that Richard asked me. I don't know how I survived from that time until the time of the show. And I did something wrong. So I told one guy on the press that he's a Sondheim maniac. And he went there to see 2 rows behind Sondheim to see his reaction. And that night was one of those nights, you know, a night like when we saw Bibi Ferreira. And those nights was that when he came to the backstage, and when we kind of became friends, and he was a so generous person with Charles and myself, and after that he approved the show, and Cameron was so much generous and very tender with us too, you know, because they said you have to do this the recording, and so we did. So the original Brazilian cast, and we released it. And Stephen Sondheim wrote to us and said, "Well, I'm not going to be in details, but he was so generous that he said, I want 20 copies because I want to give this as a Christmas present to my friends. So what can I expect more from my life after that?" So being here, so I could have stopped there, right? But I'm here.
And if I may interfere, as a proud Brazilian who has been living in New York for almost 10 years and come from a theater background in Brazil as well, I've had the opportunity to hear the material that you sent me from company, and I absolutely take my hat off for you, because just the translations, the adaptations, it's truly masterful. And it's not surprising that Stephen Sondheim loved it so much. And with great success and great financial return from the profession comes great responsibility, right? Are you good with money? Are you good at finances? How would you describe yourself?
What I say is, just to be very accurate, this is already about 15 years after I was in the career, because I worked as a piano player in many productions and small productions, and I worked for other people and many things, which is, to get to company is a choice that turned us, but we didn't do it because we wanted it to become something, a turning point in our careers. It happened that it became. not as much as I mean in terms of refunds or return or financial return. But anyway, answering to your question, I think that I'm very irresponsible, and people that work with me, they are always they want to shut me down and say, don't do that, don't get, especially in making choices. Like, for example, sometimes after I'm in the market, I've been producing. I have to get rights for doing shows. I mean, to go to especially to MTI and Times with Mark and people and Rogers and Hammerstein companies, which thank God I'm very good with them after working so many times. So. Going to them and get the initial rate, the initial money to get the rights to do the shows. Sometimes I do that, and it's not cheap, okay? And I say, but I want to do it. And people from my company, that the responsible people, that people that are really, really. And they say, no, don't do that. You don't know if you're gonna have the sponsor for that. But for some reason, I've been lucky. I don't know what's gonna happen tomorrow. Okay, for example, now I have the rights for Young Frankenstein for about 2 years already. It's something that I want to do. I was about to do it, so I paid a lot of money, especially now with the dollar rate. I paid substantial money to have the rights to do that plan and to make it work. So it was about to happen when we had this coronavirus situation. So, but I know I'm going to do it. So at that point, when I got it, when I paid for that, so I had a lot of pressure from my people to say, don't do that. You're not sure you can. But I always do. That's how I did with The Sound of Music, which became, I'm lucky. I'm very irresponsible, but I'm lucky. I'm not rich, especially now. I mean, I am far from being rich, and I know I'm never gonna be. You gain here, and then you lose in the next one, and then you gain in the other one. But that's life, and so I'm not starving, and I'm not still on the streets, and that's how things work. I'm very irresponsible and sharp. I mean, being very, very humble.
So you say you're irresponsible. So would you say, like, did you grow up with some sort of good example then? Or do you have any good example that actually justifies you saying that you're responsible?
Yeah, I'm from a very humble family. My parents are. My mother was a teacher, and my father was a public worker, funcionário público, and a very low middle class. What can I say? I don't know. Classe média baixa. But with very solid cultural suggestions. They read a lot and things like that. So, if I don't know why the fuck did I get into a position to take decisions about money? Because if I was serious, I would never do something more than get my lunch and get my dinner. Because I'm not in a position of doing those things. And even Charles comes from a very humble family too. And the decisions are on me. So why am I here? Why life took me to a position to make decisions about buying things and paying people? And I don't know. This is something that I don't know why I'm here. In terms of I don't know what's the model. If I had a model, I didn't follow. That's it. Because the people I worked with, who are producers, the thing is, I'm an artist and a producer, and this is in Brazil. It's very common. It's very different from the New York market, because you guys there, you have the producers and you have the artists. Here, in musical, we are the only players that are the directors and the artistic team, and we are the producers. We are the only one. The other people that we work with sometimes, they are only producers. So it's an awkward position because I want to do it, but at the same point I know I shouldn't for some reason, for money terms. I don't know how to answer to you. And it happens. I've never been arrested. So
have you ever been in a situation that really affected like your financial stability, or that got you really worried about it, that you go like, oh my God, I gotta rethink everything?
Every day. every day. I'm being very honest. Every day, every month. This sounds like a song, right? To every happiness, there's a down day after. In these terms, I think this is life, right? But at the time that I get happy as an artist, and when I get the artist Claudio happy with the results from the audience and from the reviews, and the Claudio producer happy with the box office, when they are both happy together one night, that's amazing. But it happens that we have it goes down. So it goes down. But I know being old and being I'm not saying old, but growing old means we get accustomed to these things. So I don't get desperate as I used to be. Many times I got desperate to see that, oh my God, how am I going to go out of this now? Because we did this show or we didn't get anything and we are in debt. I know that it's gonna. I'm used to it. It's gonna pass. It's going to go away, and something good is coming. So
you say something happened, and you go like, "Oh my God, how am I gonna get out of this?" How did you actually get out of this? Like, what happened that actually took you out of it and made it pass by?
You know what? I'm a Brazilian. You know what that means?
We know how to suffer.
We have a very important Brazilian show, which is a kind of a musical. Is a play with songs, and also it was initiated by Bibi Ferreira. The name in Portuguese is Brasileiro Profissão Esperança. We could say Brazilian profession hope. That's who we are. I mean. In the theater now, it's not only me, but all the people that I love, that I worked with, we did our time and our careers like that, like betting everything we had in something and losing and staying and going away and getting something from the next show. And I know a lot of people that are big in my career, like I'm talking about Fernanda Montenegro and Marco Nanini, and I'm talking about Eva Vilma, and producers, because we are producers. We are the players. We are on stage, but we produce. But it's very common that you say in Brazil, I had to sell my apartment to do the show. This is very common. So some people laugh when I hear people saying, "Oh, that show, I lost my apartment in it." So this is very common. So now I am 55 years old, and I understand how it works, and I understand when people said that to me. For example, like people that I worked with, like Nisette Bruno, for example, who's a great actress and worked with us in Pippin, and she had a production team with her husband, and she used to say a lot, "Oh, we had to sell our apartment in that show because they wanted to do a play. So if the play didn't pay, they sold the apartment, and they did another play." That's how it works in Brazil. I don't know if you are aware of that, because you're far from here for some time. But when you got in the thing, and you are like an artist, basically an artist, and you decide to do what you want, and this is part of the business. It's not with producers. Like like the people who produce who make replicas and these big shows. It's not their money, they're not gonna say sell their apartments, they're very clever, but we have to sometimes. I remember hearing Marco Nanini, him, and Marilia Pera saying that we didn't have the money to produce, to finish the production, to make the final things to open Irma Vap. So we had to sell our cars. So that's what they did, and they got millions after that. And sometimes you don't get the millions, so you don't have any car to sell. I don't know what's going to happen next month. My God, I don't want to make this a tragedy, but this is how it is.
It's how it is, and I think we're all living right now in a very uncertain moment in the world. For Christ's sake, when they told me Broadway was going to close, I'm like, are you kidding? I was actually with Ethan having a meeting when we both pick up our phones and like, oh boy, they're going to close Broadway tomorrow. This is crazy. And now 2 months later, here we are, right? And we don't know what's going to happen. Especially, it's wonderful to hear the differences between the New York and Brazil, because every country has its own specificity as far as it comes to creating art and producing theater. And it's great hearing from someone such as yourself from Brazil, right? We all want to do what we love. And sometimes that means let's go and sell the car to do it. So fucking do it. You know what I mean? Make it happen. You want it to happen, so make it happen. This is great. When you do have some feedback, some positive outcome out of your shows, what do you do with the money that it's not theater related? What do you do for yourself? How do you reward yourself? Do you take a trip? Do you go to a great restaurant you like? You buy something for the house? What is your way of treating yourself, Claudio?
You know what? I am. Of course, you don't know what because I didn't say. Okay, now you you will know. I'm gonna say it. The thing is, my life is a little bit mediocre because I don't get fun out of theater. I don't have any fun, for example, in travel. I don't like to travel because I like to travel to go to the theater. So if you tell me, let's go to Paris, I don't go. If I can choose, I'm not stupid to say, I don't like Paris. If I have to choose, I go to New York and London every time. I'm not creative about that. I don't want to go to Egypt and to see the pyramids. I don't want to go to Machu Picchu. I really don't, because those things don't turn me on. I think I'm so restricted that I want to travel, to go to dinner and to see friends and have good music, but I want to go to the theater that night. So where can I do that? In London, in New York, because so that's really what turns me on. I don't find fun in other things, and I find fun in the industry. And oh my God, if I can see Kevin Kline at night in a show, what else when I want to do in seeing pyramids in Egypt? Because I prefer to see the car.
I love it. It really ties up to what you said in the beginning of our interview today, how you just got bit by the bug, and the bug is still with you. You still got the virus. It's wonderful. It's wonderful that even in your personal life, that's what you go for. It's great to see that even after all those years of a wonderful career you've had, and you've done so much for Brazilian culture, that's still what moves you. That as a Brazilian myself, that makes me very happy. That gives me something to look forward to in the future as well of my career, whatever that future might mean, God knows. But I love hearing that, and I'm sure a lot of people relate with that as well.
I was thinking that as I spoke to you, this has been very, very enlightening for me too, because I'm thinking about things. I was going to ask you, is this absurd? I mean, how am I restricted in my happiness, in my search for fun? But I remember that the people I worked with in theater, our only subject is theater. We go to dinner to talk about theater. We go to see something to badmouth the other people of theater, and to say good things and to say bad things, because that's the only subject. Because what I want to do, the maximum outside my work is to see series, TV series. That's what I like. So I don't want much more than that. Don't tell me that it's going to be a festival of rock and roll or whatever, because I don't want to go. But you say there's going to be 1 week of Patti LuPone singing anything that you want, and I'm going to go there. So I want to do the same thing. So all the time.
I love it. I love it. So Claudio, I would love for you now, being so into the Brazilian culture, the theater, and just arts in general. You write, you compose, you produce, you direct, you act, you sing, you translate, you create versions. You do everything. It's absolutely incredible how much you've done for the Brazilian culture. I believe it was 49 full-on productions. This is absolutely mind-blowing. Can you tell me a little bit about it? Why 49? How come one after the other? Was there like a pressure from the media for you guys to do more and better? Did you guys have like support from everyone else in the industry, or there was some conflict? How was it? How is the industry in Brazil?
In Brazil, in the regular theater, not in musical theater especially, but in regular theater like plays, we artists are our own producers. I started with working with people that they didn't have a producer. The great Brazilian actors and the stars, they produce their shows. I'm talking about Antônio Fagundes, Fernanda Montenegro, Eva Vilma. I'm talking about Nissete Bruno, Paulo Goulart. I'm talking about Raul Cortez. These are the big names of Brazilian theater, not musicals. I mean, and they had companies, and their companies, and that's whom I learned from the profession. So it's they had to do it. They want to do a play. Let's say, for example, Sábado, Domingo, Segunda, by Eduardo de Filippo. I don't know how. Maybe it's Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I don't know. It's a very famous comedy. Maybe that's the title. I don't know. Anyway, they want to. Paulo Goulart and Nissete Bruno, they are husband and wife. He's passed away now, but they were a family of players, and we are very close to them. They wanted to do this show. What does it mean? They don't go to a producer. They are the producers. So they put the show on, and they make the accounts, and they get the rights. Sometimes they sell an apartment, because they sell their own apartment where they live, because they want to do the show, so they have to have money. So they do that, and then suddenly, if it works, okay. If it doesn't work, so what is going to happen? So we have to do another one. But going back to what you asked about how many shows. What we did is Charles and myself we were doing something that was working. We love very much what we do. We are very restricted with friends. We don't have many friends we have many friends, but we are a kind of people that we go out with the same people, like 3 or 4 people every night, and we only talk about one thing, the things that we do during the day, which is theater. So we are still, it seems like for us, I'm being very much about ourselves now. We are so like kids playing with the same toy until now that, oh my God, we're now doing West Side Story. It's going to be our next opening. Oh my God, we are doing West Side Story. So we did Gypsy. So when we did before we did Gypsy, what we had, we wanted to do Gypsy. So we did hair. Why? Because we wanted to do hair. So we do one thing. We did so much because we wanted to do things. And we didn't have anything else to do. I mean, in life, why would we? So we were And of course, we attracted sponsors with this and people from the market. So it's not that they took advantage of us. They didn't. We took advantage of ourselves, for one from each other. We were there. We wanted to do. So why not? So after we finished company, we did this Brazilian show, which was Ópera do Malandro, which is a very famous show here. So it worked so much. It ran for 3 years. So after that, we did what did we do? We did. We wanted to do. We started. We say, oh, we love Kendra Nab, so let's try and do a review by Kendra Nab, which is The World Goes Round. So we did it. So after that, we did what we did. We wanted to do Fiddler on the Roof. We do Dream, and we go and do it when it's possible. But we are talking about a moment where there was not. It was not like a pot of gold, you know. When we started, it was not a pot of gold. We were just like those crazy guys that do musicals. Because, but after it became something that showed shined like this is we get money from that. A lot of people who are not, even from theater or even from musicals, or people that have never heard a song, they never heard the opening of Gypsy, for example, they came to the market because everybody does musicals after they know it can bring you money. So this is still happening. So we had a lot of people doing things by doing, and these things worked. It hurts, you know, when I see something like. Which is a fashion here, it's a kind of fashion to have a show based on a life of someone, which is a biographical musical. That's what they say. We had about 30 of this thing because it's very easy, you know. Someone is famous, like Cazuza or like Tim Maia, for example. You don't have to do anything. You just say, well, Cazuza went to school, and then you sing his song. And Cazuza went to that. So it sells for 3 years. If it worked with this, I'm not bad-mouthing this show, but I am. Anyway, it means, I didn't see the show, but I mean, if it worked with that, why not do this with all this? So they did it with Rita Lee, and they did it with Tim Maia, and they did it with everybody. So, but it's the same formula ever. It's not a jukebox musical. Only that, you know, because that can work, and I like that. I'm just saying that people from outside the market came into it, and they said, well, it's easy. We have to put something and have some songs, because people are going to sing together and sing along. That's fine. That makes me angry, you know?
It really shows how both cultures are alike or not. I think United States also has a lot of what we call the autobiographical shows, right? We had Beautiful, the Carole King musical. On Broadway, you had the Cher musical. We had Summer, which is the Donna Summer musical, and so on. There are so many. They have Tina that started in the West End, and now it's on Broadway. So there are so many. And like you said, some people think they know what the formula is, and they end up just going for it because, as you said, it brings money, and if it brings money, I'm in it, right? So, which comes back to the beginning of our interview, where they're like, what do you do with that money is actually gonna define you as an artist or not. Like, I think a lot of artists are reckless with it, and you said yourself you're not very responsible with yours, but you're surrounded by people who help guide you through that, and you've been lucky in the industry. When it comes to future, though. In Brazil, we don't have 401ks, we don't have IRAs or things like that. We don't have unions to protect actors. What's your take on that? What do you think it's a smart investment for a person in their future as far as finance comes, since we don't have all those tools that do exist for an American professional, for instance?
I don't know how to answer to your question, because I think this, if you're clever and you are protected by someone else who is very sharp with this eye on the thing good. But if you're not, and I don't think I am. I don't have that. I should. I have some advisors. I have people that work with me and guide me in these things. But I think in generally we are I think we are a country a bit like drift away. A country as a country. We don't have many back support for many things. It's not only theater, but in theater we don't have anything. We have very feeble. Can I say that? Feeble support from union or from associations and things. And sometimes you see quickly. Last year, someone. It's a bit like that song by Sondheim. I'm still here. Last year, that woman was. She was doing first row on the show, and today she's in Casa dos Artistas. A lot of them. You know what's Casa dos Artistas? No, Retiro dos Artistas. Retiro. You know what it is. Retiro dos Artistas is something that works fantastically, thanks to ourselves. Retiro means is a home where it's close to Global TV, and it's supported by ourselves, by our companies, and by many people. That when somebody doesn't have where to live anymore, and they go there, and so they live with a little bit of comfort, and it's a community, and they even have theater. But sometimes it gets like I have the new that somebody that I know very much well, and I worked with last year. They're living there because they don't have anywhere to go anymore. So going to there, it's okay. It's honest. It's not humiliating, but it's not what should happen to some of the biggest stars in this country. You know what? Bibi Ferreira, when she died, she was comfortable in her home, but she was working until 95 because she had to work. And when she stopped working, she got depressed, and she had to work to go on paying her bills. Calbi Peixoto is a Brazilian, one of the most famous Brazilian singers, and he had to sing in a wheelchair until his very last day because he didn't have anything else. This is sad. It is sad. It's part of the thing, but we don't have anything. So some people are clever, and some people pay attention. But at some point, we should be more. I mean, it can happen to me. I'm not afraid, but it can happen to me. Why not?
Yeah, no, I hear you. It's a very unfortunate. Yes, Ethan.
That community you were talking about, is that like a retirement community that anybody in Brazil can go to?
No, it's only for the artists. It's only for like the let's say if like Bernadette Peters and Patti LuPone at some point just lost their jobs and had nowhere to eat and nowhere to live, they would go to this place, and that's supported by the Brazilian artistic community.
And is it just like Rio? Or are there multiple places?
No, it's in Rio. And it's supported by ourselves. I mean, the community. And this is something very, very, very nice that we can do. But it happens to. His example is good. It's like Patti LuPone. Last year she was on stage, but today she's there. And I saw a lot of people that I know that I was fond of. And they were there. So at least they had comfort to die, to live their last years. But for example, Madame Morino, she died in Retiro dos Artistas. That's unbelievable, that kind of woman. One of the most important stars in the story of Brazilian theater. She lived her last years alone in a home. together, surrounded by other people, but that's not what you. But we treat very badly our artists in the country. They don't give anything. The country itself doesn't care about it. It's like we don't. It's not like, for example, who knows our stars from the past? They are not honored by the country as a tradition like America does, or like. It is very important that you guys, for example, you guys have anything that to be a Gershwin. Gershwin is a name that is revived every single day. It's like a national treasure. We have this kind of we have this in our country, but it's treated like shit. You know, it's like no one cares about who is Caymmi. Who's Caymmi? For a lot of young people, they don't know because there's nowhere a Caymmi institution. People, there is a Tom Jobim institution, Antonio Carlos Jobim institution, for example, but it's not revived every day like America does with their stars, because you guys find it is market. It gives money to put back a show like a Jerry Herman show. So it's always coming back because it's worthy, it's profitable. So you guys take, it's a kind of Brazil it doesn't see culture, and I discuss that very much in terms of politicians here, and every time I have the chance that we don't see the power of money and in the culture. We have so much to sell and we don't sell them. We don't sell samba. We don't sell bossa nova. We don't have any bossa nova house. So if Ethan comes to Rio tomorrow and he wants to see, he's going to say, "Oh, Claudio, can I see a show of bossa nova? Can I hear that?" I will say, "Oh, sorry, we don't have," because we don't have. In Tokyo, there are 40 theaters that play bossa nova. In Rio de Janeiro, there's no one. So that's Brazil.
The U.S. is similar in the sense of, like you're saying, clever artists who think about money or just make sure they have a plan, they do okay. But the rest don't always end up with like great stories.
But you have some protection or not, you guys?
We have Social Security.
Okay.
So I would say that's like our only safety net.
That would be the equivalent for us, Claudio, at Previdência Social, which might apply or not depending on what you do. I'm not very familiar anymore with all the rules of why would you get that sort of money from the government later on after you're 65 or something.
And with us, if you're an artist and you don't make a lot of money, then you don't get a lot of Social Security later on. And then it also varies in depending on what state or region you live in. You might do better. Like there might be subsidized housing that you can have access to if you live in the right state. But if you don't live in the right state, then you're going to have a harder time.
In terms of the artists, it's similar. It's like when I say Joe Gray doing 7 shows a week, it's because he's happy there. He makes us happy, but he needs to do it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Same here. Okay, bye.
I think it's fascinating how much of that crosses over the oceans, you know what I mean? Because art is art anywhere and everywhere, and however we do it is based on how supportive our culture is or not. And like you said, Brazil doesn't see arts and artists as a very respectful, honorable profession, unfortunately.
Kind of, but as Ethan was saying, maybe it's a kind of thing like, well, it's like, let's think about Van Gogh, for example. So it's a guy who never got a penny from what he did. So it's kind of our damnation to be an artist. It's part of our things. And let's see how Judy Garland died. So how she lost everything. That's not because people. She made choices. Then we do that too.
But it's part of the deal, right? It comes with the contract.
Let's not talk about that. I'm going to be very depressed about tomorrow.
Actually, I want to ask you now. Like we talked about the actual reality of what happens to artists in the future if they're not very diligent with their money. But the entire world is living this crazy pandemic of COVID-19. What do you foresee for the projects you have? You have a lot of projects lined up, and what do you foresee as far as the art scenario in Brazil after COVID-19?
Well, I am after being in life so many years. I was going to say in the market, but I'm 55, so I lived 55 years, and I've been through a lot of crisis in the theater. Since the very beginning, since the minute I started in the theater was in crisis in Brazil. So it means there was a crisis for when the Plano Real, there was a crisis of the Plano Color, and there was the crisis of everything. So this is a little bit different because it's worldwide. It's the first time. It's different for everyone and every kind of activity. It doesn't affect only theater. It affects everyone in everywhere. So I am positive because I think we're going to find a way. I know we will find a way because theater is going to be happening because it happened since Greece, and everything is going to be happening. What I think is there's a bit. This is a very personal opinion. Things are now shut down. The theaters are closed, and the planning for coming back are being done. But I think there's a lot of hysteria. I think there's too much people that are planning to do shows with using masks. This is what is being planned. In my opinion, that's why we're going to do theater. So if you're going to see a show with people using masks, so they don't want to see a show. So it's being planned for a future that doesn't exist. So if the future is to use masks to make shows, live shows, so there's no future. I can't imagine. I know that in Broadway they're talking about that they're going to be only monologues and no orchestra or whatever. This is rumor, right? This is not real.
It's all speculation. I mean, rumors are rumors. Because we can always talk. We can literally only live day by day. As of yesterday, we said September 13th but I spoke with so-and-so, and that very person told me that his show is not going to probably open until March 2021. But if something changes, if tomorrow they come up with a vaccine, that very person is going to come back and tell me, let's open for July. Who the heck knows? What I do want to ask you, though, is you said that people were finding different things, different ways of trying to do theater and stuff. Do you think it's a good time to encourage people to do things that are not live connection, like utilize internet to maybe try to express themselves differently as artists? Do you think it's the right moment for that? Or like you said before, let's focus in the future whenever the future comes? Where do you stand there?
What I think is the only thing we have that is different from anything is our presence, is being alive. Theater is what it is, and it gives us what we have. It's because it's the only experience that you can sell, that someone is going to see only once. Even if it's 4 years or 5 years or 20 years on, if you're there, that thing only happens that time. So if we lose that, we don't have anything, right? So that's our only thing that makes us what we are. I think we are above anything in terms of entertainment, because I'm not very much about rock concerts or things like that, because to be in a theater with 2,000 seats, for example, with an orchestra, and the lights go down, and these people are going to work, and anything can happen. So that's an experience. That's the only thing that we have, and so we have to have expensive tickets for that, and that's why people like Barbra Streisand or whoever, they are so much expensive to be seen, because otherwise people go to stadiums and see people together with the other people turning their lights on, and that's not what we have. And see, if it becomes not if it becomes like live things in internet and things like that, it's not what we have. But if it is the future, I will have to adapt myself because I have to eat tomorrow. But I can't.
Brings back to being smart about what you do in your business, right?
I would hate to have to think about that because I'm gonna lose anything. The only thing I have to offer.
So it was so enlightening to have you with us today. It's absolutely wonderful to have this bridge between Brazil and New York, and times where we're living now under this magnifying glass, where we're eager to learn things, we're eager to explore new possibilities, we're eager to hear from someone who's done so well, we're eager to learn from someone who hasn't done anything at all but has great ideas. So I think it all comes in a great time for us to hear you having your insights live with us. It was just absolutely fantastic and phenomenal. So thank you so much for your time, for your talent, for sharing with us. And if you have any last things to say, we would love to hear that before we close this up.
Oh, I am flattered with your words. Thank you so much. Well, for me, it was, as I was saying in Portuguese before, I was not prepared. I mean, I just woke up and came to this conversation. But it was very rich, like I understood talking to you guys, like talking to you, like we do as friends sometimes, but now officially talking, and with the perspective that people are looking for to some information, practical information in theater. It made me think about things, and knowing that we are now. When this thing in Brazil started, like musicals in Brazil started, I used to be sent to Buenos Aires to discuss rights, and now Brazil is the third, as far as I know, the third country in terms of musicals in the world. So it means a lot to me to be talking to you guys, and I learn a lot when I talk about that. And if I can contribute, I loved it. I'm very thrilled that we played a little bit today. Thank you so much, Ethan, for this opportunity.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure for sure. Thank you, Ethan, for making this happen, and we really hope this podcast brings a lot of insight for the world and for whoever listens to it, wherever we are. You know what I mean? Hopefully, a lot of people. It's just a great bridge, and thank you, Claudio, for that. Absolutely.
This is amazing.
Thank you so much. I loved it.
Like when you guys started talking, I was like, these guys are crazy. And then when you said the thing about how producers and artists are the same, I was like, that's what's different here. People here aren't as passionate, is all I'll say. Like selling an apartment to put on a show is not going to happen. Or selling it.
It's not. Oh, yeah. Oh, my.
Well, like, yeah. Okay, every once in a while, somebody. When Ronny and I met, that's what attracted me to him, is he's so passionate. But that's not, it's not as common here.
You know what? I know this is not part of the thing, but there's one thing very interesting about, maybe later or someday, and Ronny will tell you. Producers in New York, they know what's the book, what's the music. They know that thing. Here, there are people from a market that has nothing to do with culture. You know, somebody that does a show by Jerry Herman never knew who this person is. It's not like the Schuberts or whatever. So this is very different. Well, anyway,
yeah,
it's so different.
Yeah.
It is, and a lot of times in Brazil, like you have to submit it, like Claudio said, to investors and to people that like. It's big enterprises like Banco Bradesco or TAM, Ministério da Cultura, the ministry and stuff. And by the time you open the show, you already have some sort of money behind it to run for an X amount of time alone. So I can only imagine how hard it is for a show, like you said, Ópera do Malandro, that runs for 3 years. You know what I mean? To keep that momentum going.
Oh no, but that was another time. That's different. This is something very hard to explain to Americans. I mean, to the American market, how things work here. Because this sponsoring thing, it means like we don't lose, which means in terms we lose, but in terms of things you can do a show It's very like the producers, the show. You can do a show that it won't work because you're going to gain. Anyway, it happens here.
That was our interview with Claudio Botelho. My takeaways were, Claudio is passionate. I don't know if that is because he is Brazilian, or an artist, or both. But the ferocity with which he loves theater explains how he has produced so many shows. Follow the art and be conscious of the money. The art may reward financially, but there are many artists who are successful in art, but not in money. Each artist is different, so you have to find the formula that works for you. Artists in Brazil produce their own work, versus the USA, where it is common to have a producer taking the reins and pushing things along. Thank you to Claudio for his time, and thank you to Ronny, who conducted 2 wonderful interviews. If you speak Portuguese, please listen to episode 13.1 for more with Ronny and Claudio. They discuss different topics than this episode, so be sure to check it out. That's it for today. Until next time, break a leg.